It's funny because I always feel like right now there should be intro music. Like I should have some sort of intro music that's playing, you know.
Like a big voice that goes, welcome.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like the Joe Rogan podcast. Yeah. I mean, like Rogan's got his own music going, and like there's, you know, all those podcasts and stuff have their stuff going on. I don't see any viewers here yet, so that means that it just caught up. Well, just trust me. I see it, and I see 5,000 people are watching right now, and that is not true. That's just my always running gag. So we've got now. Do you see the comments coming in somewhere? I don't really know what you see on your side.
Comments. Oh yes, Michelle, Jonathan, Martha. Hello.
Lucky here. Hello.
Alison, there we are.
There's Allison. She's the one that put it all together and connected us. She was so excited to get you on the show.
Oh, bless her. Thank you so much,
and
Alison.
She said, you've got to have Luke Richardson on the show. And I said, I don't know who that is. No, I'm kidding. I've seen you. Now this is honest truth, guys. Okay. Always honest. Oh, look, there's another guy with an accent.
Oh.
So I have seen your name. I have heard of you. I have never, and I've seen your face, but I haven't read any of your books yet. I've seen them, and the covers are spectacular.
Thank you.
So I can't wait to talk a little bit about your books, because this is how I usually do. This is very often how I meet new authors, right? And make new friends is through this show, and this is how, you know, the readers find new books to read, and they get to know you too while I'm getting to know you. The only exceptions were, like, you know, Nick Thacker and Kevin, because those guys are always, you know, we're always texting each other and stuff. But other than that, pretty much everybody on the show that's been on so far, I've met on the show. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Luke Richardson to Drinks with Dempsey. Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. There we go.
And I'm just going to say one thing right up front that I already like about Luke, because I emailed him like Tuesday. By the way, I never schedule this way in advance. It's not like listen, guys, we've got December lined up already.
But it was your people that spoke to my people, wasn't it? And they worked it all out based on, you know, weather patterns and migrating birds and that sort of thing, signs of the zodiac and all that business. And here we are.
That's right. Yes. So, but you were ready to go. I was like, hey, can you do Friday? And you're like, yes. So first of all, I want to compliment the layout that you have behind you there. You have a nice plant with a cool looking light, a well organized shelf. Are you a well organized person typically?
I have to confess, this isn't my apartment. I'm house sitting in Riga in Latvia at the moment. So the shelves behind me, I'm only responsible for the last 2 weeks. Wow. So I've kept very, very neat, as you can point out. Thank you for that.
You're in Latvia right now.
I'm in Latvia, yes.
Okay, this is just a whole new can. This is spectacular. What are you doing? Okay, hold on a second. Let's say hello. I'm going to say hello to everybody real quick. Hello, Michelle and Jonathan and Martha. And I think I said hi to Allison already. And Kathy and Sam Nosh is here. Sam, we were talking about you a few minutes ago. Hello. Were your ears burning? It was the cat, by the way, Michelle. So Latvia, tell me what that is like. I was going to ask you cliche questions like, how old are you? You look young. And how many books? We'll get to your books too. And I want to, you know, do all that stuff at some point. But like, what are you doing in Latvia? How did you end up there? And what's it like there?
It's really nice. It's quite north. It's on the Baltic Sea, so it's a little bit chilly. Sort of 4 or 5 degrees, but it's a beautiful city, architectural wise, cobbled streets, loads of like dreamy spires of cathedrals
Yeah.
and ancient architecture, and it's wonderful. I had this dream a little while ago of sort of writing a book, go into a place, because all my books are set in different places, as we'll talk about. Go into a place and write in the book whilst I was there. And I
Oh,
saw this. I'm on a website, like an exchange website for people who are going on holiday, and you come to their house and sort of live in their house and look after the house. And I saw this come up and was like, "Oh, Riga, Latvia, that would be cool," and just sort of leapt at the chance. And it's not far from. I'm you know, in the UK, it was about 2 hours flight from from there. So I flew over and just thought, you know what, I'm gonna see how it goes. It's quiet. There's no other tourists here. The bars and restaurants aren't really open. But for
right.
me, I wanted a bit of solitude and writing time and,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So here I am.
All right. And you seems like such a very happy person. Of course, that's your 17th beer, but no. So you don't have like a family that you have to like tote around with you, like
No, my
children and
missus is
stuff.
at home. In fact, she's on the chat. So I say hello to her, Martha. She's there. She said hello already.
So Martha
That's my
is
missus, my wife to be. Yes, there she is.
hello.
There she is.
Oh,
Hello.
and those eyes, she's looking at you like I
I know.
know what you're up to.
I know what you're doing. You
That's
better come
exactly
home.
the look. So that's your future missus.
It is.
And
It is.
you said, "Hey, sweetie, I love you, but I'm going to dip out for a couple of weeks and go to Latvia." And she didn't say, "Hey, can I go with you?"
That was almost exactly how it went, to be honest. Do you know what? She's quite used to me doing this sort of thing. We met in
Okay.
a few years ago, 2017 it was, and we met. And then about 2 weeks later, I went to Rome for a couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
I'm a proper traveller. I just love to go off and do my own thing. And I did invite her over for a few days, but she decided, because flights are a little bit sketchy and you can't be sure at the moment as to what
Right.
flights are running, but you're not sure whether it will be on that day, or whether you'll have to stop off in this place and whatever. So for me, it didn't really matter because I work wherever. But for
Yeah.
her, it was a little bit more, she would have to get back. So it was a bit more.
What does she do?
She works in pharmaceutical research.
Oh,
Game show, this, isn't it now? No, yeah.
yes. Pharmaceutical research. Interesting. Did you base a character on her?
I haven't yet. I should do.
Like somebody who's dabbling with something that they weren't supposed to see, and then they make a discovery that was not supposed to be made, and then they send an email to the wrong person, and then all of a sudden, like the black SUVs show up outside. I guess over there it would be like Range Rovers or Jaguars. Like the choppers are flying in, the Jaguars are like flying in, surrounding
there you go.
And then
Martha, what do you think? Does that sound likely? What do you reckon?
Martha, she's got to get out of there. And who's going? Is she the hero? Right? Is she like the secret, like badass, or is she like or is there like another character that's going to swoop in? She seems, with that look on her face, like she can handle it herself. Just saying.
I reckon so. Oh, she says it's great. You've got a reader there, definitely.
Look, this face right there, she can handle it herself.
There you go. The next series, she's the protagonist or antagonist, depending on which way you're looking at it.
Luke, I'm gonna write the foreword of that series for you. Like, I'm just gonna say this was born out of a hilarious discussion that became serious, and I think that everyone should read this series. Sincerely, Ernest Dempsey. And there it is. That's all I'm going to put in the foreword. And you're going to write the series, and you're going to become super famous, and you're going to be like, "Hey, Ernie, if you want to, ride my coattails, you feel free." And then I'm going to do it. I'm going to grab onto your coattails, and I'm going to hold on for dear life until we're on your space yacht together.
I love it. Steve, Martha's face, too good to become a Richardson. What a guy. Thanks, mate.
Dude, Stephen Moore is amazing. I love
He is
that
a
guy.
guy.
And he's always got great comments.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. So yeah, I think that you should do that. I think you should base a character. I'm not going to tell you how to run your gig, but good grief, you've got the character right there, lit, in your life. Spectacular.
I'd definitely put some thought into that. I think that could be a good one for for a future series, definitely.
Although it could get you in trouble.
It could, couldn't it? Because you could never have her doing anything that you wouldn't, you'd have to run everything past her, wouldn't you?
Right. That's the problem.
She'd be like, I wouldn't wear that. I
wouldn't wear that. That's not how I wouldn't say those words.
I didn't know. You might wear red and blue at the same time. Like
that's when you say, look, it's not about you. It's about someone who does your job.
This is bigger than you.
So you're in Riga, you're in Latvia, and how long are you there for?
I'm here until Sunday, so I'll have been here 3 weeks at that point.
3 weeks. So at that point, I say you're not just visiting, you're living. Like you've lived there for 3 weeks. Like I lived in central Germany for 3 weeks.
Oh,
in this little village. It was back before you have kids and you're not tied down to anything. You can live this rock star Luke Richardson lifestyle that you just fly around the world and do whatever you want to do. Enjoy it because it's about to go away, Luke.
Wash you can, yeah.
But
no, I agree with what you mean, because for the first week I was here, I was walking around, and you walk around a new place and you look at like a church for a while, and it's really amazing. And then you look at like the new style of bus that they have, or the new different style of this or whatever, and everything's really fascinating. And then after about 10 days or so, that goes away, and you sort of put your hood up and walk around like a local, just sort of looking at the floor,
Yes,
it's fantastic to have that open-eyed sort of look, which I really liked.
Yeah, and you get to feel what it's like, the real culture in places like that. And you can stay for 2 or 3 weeks in one place. And I'm not knocking like these, whirlwind tours that you can take, because I've done some of those too, like 4 countries in 2 weeks sort of thing. Those are fun. But when you get to stay in one place, you really get to understand like what those people, what the locals are like, and some of the customs and some of the way that people are there. I think it's really cool. And you get to really dive into some interesting, you can get into the cuisine a little deeper, the local festivals. And of course, there's probably not a lot of festivals going on right now, but
it's quite quiet. But that's good. That's what I came here for, was to have that time to do my writing and whatnot. So.
That's so cool. Now, here's Steve Moore's so funny. What a goofball.
How many countries are you at now, Steve? Must be about 50 or something.
There's a part of me that's very jealous, and then there's a part of me there's the part of me that's a homebody, and I'm just kind of like, I'm good here, like staying. I don't go out very often, so
I like doing a few weeks in each is mine. Like now, I'm quite looking forward to going back, and I'm looking forward to the things where I can go to the little shop around the corner and I know what's there, and there's no surprising like having to work out what's in this tin of something with a mysterious picture on it that I can't. There we are, 67 countries. Oh my days.
He's like my boy Chris Guillebeau. Chris Guillebeau, the blogger and the author. He visited every existing country at one point.
Wow.
And which some of them I'm not sure how he got in and out of, but you probably had to get some real specific permissions for like North Korea and some of those others. But yeah, he did it. He went to every country. He had to pick a time and stick with that, because of course countries change, like things change and borders change and whatever. But interesting guy, Chris Guillebeau. Really, really interesting guy.
The name, yeah. I think probably on a travel podcast or something like that.
Yeah, and he wrote a book called The $100 Startup, which was basically like showing people how they could start their own business or their own side hustle with like $100. Really simple things that people could do. to make money outside of like the normal 9 to 5, which I thought was a neat thing, and got to hang out with him. And I bought him a nice bottle of something, and then he couldn't take it back to Oregon with him because he couldn't take it on the plane. So.
Oh no! So you had to help him finish it.
So what was great was, no, it was actually pretty awesome. So we were it was a small conference here in Chattanooga, and he maybe like 100 people there, all people that wanted to do, entrepreneurial type stuff. And I was there as an educator. I was a guidance counselor, and a buddy of mine were talking about this entrepreneurial school that we had started working into the school where we were employed, and how like young people can get involved in entrepreneurship, because we believe that that's the future, is more people starting businesses and starting young. And so Chris, I gave him this bottle of bourbon from Nashville called Bellmead, and great story behind the Bellmead distillery, by the way. Those guys, I believe it was a couple of brothers that do it, but I'll get sidetracked. Anyway, gave him the bottle, and then he took it up front with him, and he said, since I can't take this back on the plane, is it okay if I share it with the audience? So like, almost interestingly enough, this conference was in an old church, like this big old kind of antique church in downtown Chattanooga that they'd refurbished for like weddings and stuff. And so somebody busted out all these little plastic cups like you'd have with the sacrament, basically, in like in the communion, and they were pouring these little tiny shots and handing them out to everybody. And it was
amazing. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. But yeah, interesting guy. And he visited, so far he's visited more countries than Steve Moore. So
wow, Steve, you got some catching up to do, mate. Get on the bus.
Yes. Allison asked if I've sorted out a castle yet. No, but you'll be glad to know that I did start looking. So I have started looking for the castle, and I am working on that. But who knows when it's going to be, right? Like,
are you looking to buy one or build one, or?
Okay, I haven't sold that many books, Luke. I haven't made Stephen King money. Like if I was rolling with like James Patterson money, yes,
so we're talking a sandcastle. Yeah,
I can build a sandcastle. Yes, on my vacation. In fact, I could have done that a couple weeks ago. I guess no, I wasn't near the beach. But yeah, so what we're doing is we've talked about coming over to the UK and doing like what was it, Allison? Like a historical tour kind of thing. But a bunch of us renting out a castle and staying there and doing a whole big get together thing. And so I thought it would be, I thought it would be cool. So, and it wasn't my idea. It might have been Allison's, or Allison, was it yours or somebody else's? I can't remember. But it wasn't my idea, I don't believe. But
it's a great idea, and it would be good.
Well, then that case, it was my idea.
And we'll go for some beers in, some nice local warm, non-fizzy British ale in wooden beamed pubs carved out of rock somewhere.
Yes. Steve said it's not a competition. I have worked on 5 continents. So that's awesome. No, I am not. I have. Yes, that's still a problem with Google. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? That they think I'm from Hangu, Pakistan, and clearly my accent. Yeah, have you ever Googled me, Luke? Google Ernest Dempsey and see what you get. Don't do it right now, obviously, but we don't want to like fritz out the system here with school. Yeah, it's a weird thing. There's a guy, very nice guy. His name's Kareem Khan. He's from Hangu, Pakistan, but he writes under the pen name Ernest Dempsey. And at one point I even asked him, like, what? That is a really random name for you to pick. And he explained the story to me, and I was like, all right, whatever. But he writes, it's more like sort of like I don't want to call it self-help, but it is kind of like self-help stuff. And motivational stuff and sort of helping people through their journey. Really nice dude, like a really, and a good guy.
Yeah, to just make that up though. I mean, I once had a Luke Richardson try and buy my email address, Luke Richardson, from me, which made from a really interesting thread because I couldn't work out whether I was talking to myself and I'd made the whole thing up, or whether I really was having this conversation with another Luke Richardson with almost the same email address.
Martha, how many beers have I had tonight? That's your first one, dear.
That's it.
Wow. Does she call you dear, or does she say love?
She will start now. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I like Martha. I really want to meet Martha. So
when
Sam,
you come and live in a castle, we'll make sure to.
Well, Sam said Rockingham Castle.
Nice.
I don't know my castles, so I just know that we don't really have very many of them here because we missed that period of time in history on this side of the water. But so this is a great question. I don't want to mispronounce your name, by the way. Is it Duran? I don't want to mess it up. But have you considered doing a Western? Are you asking me or Luke? I will start with asking you, Luke. Have you considered doing a Western?
I have never considered writing a Western. However, I do have some really fond childhood memories of watching Western films, which I absolutely loved. With my granddad sat there in front of a tiny little TV in the corner, and he'd seen them all 1,000 times already, and he had this habit of shouting what was going to happen just before it did on the screen. And I got quite into them, actually. I don't know that I'd ever write one, but I like the idea of.
But have you seen Tombstone?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, see, if you were an American, we would kick you out because that's your initiation into Americanhood. Not really, but that was it is an amazing film, and I love Tombstone. There's so many great lines in that story, and Val Kilmer really crushed it as Doc Holliday. To answer the question, Doran, I don't want to mess up your name, but I have considered writing a Western because I love Westerns, and I grew up a big pronounced either way, I see. I have always been a big Clint Eastwood fan. I like all the old spaghetti Westerns with now I can't even think of the name, Outlaw Josie Wales and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and all those other ones were so good. I didn't get to see as many with the Duke as I would like, and now that I'm talking about it, I'll probably go back and watch some of those. But I love Westerns. I really enjoyed, I can't think of the name of it. The one with Eastwood that he did like early 90s, I can't think of the name of it, with Morgan Freeman, but that was a great film. And of course, Tombstone was just amazing, but I do like Westerns and what I think, and not to like skip genres way too much, but one of the things I love Star Wars. And one of the things that I absolutely love about The Mandalorian is it's plainly a Western. Like they even did, I don't want to do spoilers for anyone, but this isn't like some big piece of it, but episode like chapter 10 or 11 here in the new season 2, the Mandalorian's riding into this old Western town, like almost a ghost town, on the speeder bike, that hovers over the ground. And he's riding in real slow. And like, there's like a barber comes out of the barber shop and leans up against the thing. And against this pole, and there's like a woman of ill repute kind of looking at him funny, and there's like
all the archetypes right there.
Everything was done. I mean, Favreau and those, and Favreau's got like 4 directors from 4 very different walks of life creating that show, and I don't know if Bryce Dallas Howard was the one behind that one or what, but that scene and really all of them, but that scene was so Western. And it was just like, it was almost as if to say, look, if you had any doubts, guys, this Mandalorian is a space Western. This guy's a gunslinger, and this is what this is. And I mean, the music testifies to that. And
but I suppose it's that sort of like classic thriller storytelling, isn't it? Is you've got the situation, and the protagonist arrives in the situation, finds something, a problem, solves the problem, and then rides off into the sunset. You know, Lee Child and the Jack Reacher series is all about that thing, isn't it? You know,
that's right. And Mark Dawson's books really hammer that home. And so I love writing stories like that, and that's one of the reasons that I created the Dak Harper character. And I'm actually working on the first full-length book in that series now, because I wanted to bring that kind of storytelling into the archaeological treasure hunting stuff that I already do. And so that's why I created the Relic Runner. And but I love it, and I love the way that you described it. Like that's
mine stories are similar, I suppose, because they're all named after the cities in which they're set. So the first one's Kathmandu, and then it's Hong Kong and Berlin, and New York is out in a little while. But I do also show the characters before they arrive in the place.
Yeah,
I didn't think about it before this conversation, but you know, we see them at home before, because they're sort of to give you sort of the background, they're missing persons investigators. So whenever someone goes missing in a place, and you know, you see it on the news that so and so has gone missing or whatever, and then it disappears from the headlines, doesn't it, after a couple of days, because something else has come up. My protagonists are the characters who the families call and say, oh, my son and daughter, or my brother or sister, or whoever has gone missing in X place, can you go and find them? And off they go to this place and track down these missing people for whatever reason they may be missing or whatever, you know. So we see them at home first, because that inciting incident, that phone call, happens when they are at home having a nice time, you know, ready to go.
And now, is this a series that follows the same characters around? And okay, cool. I love that stuff. I mean, obviously I write that stuff, but I mean, yes, Allison, to answer your question, Unforgiven. Thank you. Allison saves the day again.
Oh, is that the one you were talking about? The
Unforgiven. Yeah,
God,
that's Tombstone, but Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman and Morgan Freeman, they all did the Unforgiven back in like early, I want to say it was like 91, 92, somewhere in there. But anyway, I interrupted you. But yeah, no, so it's a series, and this is a group that like looks for, you said, missing people.
Yeah, so it's two people, Leo and Alyssa are my main characters, and they're not a couple yet, although there's hints in the story that they may be in the future, and I wouldn't like to say one way or the other. But essentially they get the idea, they get called by people to go and find people around the world, because it's quite a difficult thing by all accounts, because there's different cultures and different police forces, different authorities, you know, there's no ends, different languages and all these sorts of things. So they're really battling against all these sorts of elements when they go and find do one of these investigations. Now, that doesn't mean they're massively fictional. You know, I've not I've not been in that situation, but I sort of fly with it and see what comes out. Obviously, with places I've visited and places I've experienced, hence why there will be one in Riga at some point in the coming year or so. I've done the plan of that whilst I've been here, which I'm
very
really
Neil Gaiman of you, by the way. Like,
yes,
Neil Gaiman only does the stuff like where he's been. Like, he wants the authentic experience. That's very cool. Keep going.
I'll tell you, Ernie, because we're friends now, the plan in my mind of the Riga novel, and you're going to love this, actually. I really think you will. So when Latvia was occupied by the Soviet Union for years and years and years, and was finally released back in the 90s,
Yep.
Now, when the Latvian government still existed during that time, okay, but because everyone else accepted that it was still the government in power, but in reality it wasn't, because it was taken over. Anyway,
Yeah, it was like it was there, but they were sort of impotent.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
When they got access again to like the records place where all the information is kept on people in the place, you know, in the country, they got back to this place and found that the Russians had taken all of the information on sort of criminal records, who was involved in the KGB and dobbing people in for various things, who was involved in all these sorts of shady activities. And I just thought that, you know, actually now there's a few conspiracy theories flying around that if these records were to come out, there's a few quite powerful people in various places in Latvian society. And if anyone kicks down the door during this call, because I'm saying this, there's some powerful people that if these records were to come out now, 30 years later, there might be some reputations that are a little bit damaged by that. And maybe even things would be different. Things would have to change quite significantly. So that got me thinking, and that's going to be the sort of emphasis of this novel that's set in Latvia in the next year or so.
First of all, for dramatic effect, it would have been awesome if you had taken your computer screen and like flipped it over sideways and started screaming, but
flash the lights.
Yeah, somebody's coming in, you're like, ah! That would have been amazing. This would have been the most viewed show.
I did worry about that. I did halfway through talking, then I was like, oh gosh, what if someone's checking this?
No, it's I know people that used to work for the NSA, and look, they have a file on all of us here in the States, and what they told me was, yes, they have a file on you, and they also don't care about you because you're not doing anything crazy. I'm like, I don't know. Now I'm writing like some of these conspiracy theories. One of them, sooner or later, one's gonna like hit home, and it's with the wrong. It's gonna be like the Pelican Brief, and I'm gonna be hunted down. And so I mean,
or maybe people will look back on your work 1,000 years in the future and think, how did he get it so right? This guy is like a prophet. This guy should be remembered.
So it is weird. I'm not ignoring the comments over here. Oh, I don't know why my phone's doing that. Doran, thank you, by the way. I appreciate that. And the one that's not released is coming soon. And by the way, Kathy, I meant to say hi to you. It's always good to see you. And Allison said it was James Rozone's idea about the castle. So I'll need to text him and see how he's doing. But I did have somebody, I've had multiple somebody's actually email me and say, I read this book and it really freaked me out. At first, I wasn't, because it was about a bioweapon, like a viral bioweapon. And so they said I had to look to see when it was published, and I couldn't believe that you published it like 9 years ago. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm not the first one to invent the bioweapon idea, but it's something that I've been concerned about, and whether or not you think that this whole pandemic is a natural occurrence of evolution or if it was engineered. And I know I have my opinions, and that I don't run this show to voice my opinions. I do that in private, but it's certainly plausible. And
absolutely, yeah, of course.
And it's if somebody wanted to do that and they had the means and all the resources and the facilities.
That's the beauty of dystopian. I mean, I suppose you're not a dystopian writer per se, are you? But if you're talking about bioweapons and stuff, there's a dystopian element to it, isn't there?
Sure.
And that's the beauty of that sort of writing. If you look at Orwell's 1984, and you look at the world at the moment with a CCTV camera on every corner, and now when you've got one of these in your pocket monitoring every movement, he'd have looked at that and gone, ha ha ha, I told you so.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much of what we live now would have been, he would have been like how much of it in detail did he really envision? People like them that were so ahead of the times. to the level of detail like they might have imagined. Like you joked, like that I was a prophet or whatever, but like I do wonder sometimes about those writers, like how close to, like the way they described things back then. We couldn't have really imagined it, except for we couldn't see inside their minds, but we took their words and tried to imagine. But how much of it did they really see?
Well, he talks about the country being kept under a perpetual state of fear, doesn't he? Because of faked attacks upon, faked wars that no one knows whether are real or whatever.
I gotta read that again, because that's a little detail that I forgot about. You're right.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's a fantastic book. Really, really clever.
It is very clever. And look, speaking of clever, I love the way Luke writes about books where he does show in his books. All right. Very good. So I just have to ditch my family and start traveling more alone. Sorry, sweetie.
You're welcome along, man.
Daddy,
anytime.
Daddy's got to go to Venezuela right now.
Yeah.
Venezuela? Isn't there like a civil war going on? Yeah, I'll be fine. They never shoot the writer.
Yeah.
It's like Cheech Marin in Desperado. He's like, the bartender never gets killed. Like they never shoot the bartender. And then he got it the worst of all.
No, that's it. That's it. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine until I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke says you'll be fine. I'm saying something. No.
Look, what does this mean? What is Martha's blank?
She's got nothing to say to us, mate. She's done with this conversation.
She's fed up and she's over it.
Yeah.
It's just the look. Like, it's just that look that says it all. Like, I'm watching you and you're not going anywhere. And I think she might be talking to me. Like,
maybe.
Oh, I see. Very cool, Allison. I'm glad you're liking this so far. I'm enjoying writing it. I'm definitely.
So is this the one you're doing? I saw this earlier and I'm really impressed with it. With the one you're doing chapter by chapter and releasing it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic idea.
Yeah, I did that with the Dak Harper serials that I did earlier this year, and I did I released book 1 and I gave it to everybody on my email list and on the Facebook fan page for free a year ago, actually in December. And I just, because I wasn't sure if everybody was going to like the new character or the new storyline. And oh, hey, Kat. Okay, I'll send Kathy via message. But yeah, I wanted to test it out and see if people, were interested in a new character that's sort of in the same universe. And so I created this guy and did this short story. He's a Delta Force guy in Iraq and Afghanistan, and gets betrayed by his team and left for dead. And everybody really liked it, almost everybody. And I didn't get any negative comments about it. And so I decided, okay, I need to continue this. And so I wrote 5 additional. They're not short stories, but they're not. I guess they're like novellas, and to complete the series. But when COVID hit, really in like February, I was like, this will be a good thing to share with the world, to sort of like get people's mind off of stuff, give them something daily to look forward to. And it'll keep me on track. It'll keep me from getting distracted.
So are you doing a chapter a day then, or a chapter a week, or a?
Yeah, a chapter a day. And then there were shorter chapters, they were only averaging 15 to 100 to 2,000 words. So yeah. I was trying to do them daily, and it kept me pushing on. And so it was beneficial, I think, for everyone.
And then at the end of that, did you put that all together in a book and sell that as you normally?
Yeah. So I did all. I dripped it all out day by day, 5 days a week on my blog, and then and all these people that you see here in the comments. Martha said she was trying to post a GIF. I a lot of these people you see over here on the side, and dozens more and that aren't here, were very kind to help me edit it, including my editor Anne, who was like, "I'll volunteer to help you. You know, you have to pay me." And I was like, "Well, I don't feel good about that." So after we got it all done, you know, and everybody's comments, and I cleaned it up and polished it. I sent it to Anne, and she actually would help me day by day as well too. She was really, really good. Anne Storr down in Australia, and she was working on that with me. And so we put it out every day, and I really enjoyed doing it. It was not stressful. It sounds stressful talking about it, but it was fine. And
great, you know, as well. I love the idea of that.
You know what? So we have the stories that we tell that are work, right? Like there's a lot of work that has to go into them, and a lot of research. I mean, look at you. You're in Riga right now, for crying out loud. Like that's
the research, man. That's the research. You know, working hard, researching this novel.
That's
cheers.
That's boots on the ground research. And so you know, there's a lot that goes into it, and there are certain days where you're just like, you know, you sit down at the laptop and you're like, I don't know if I know what to say today. Like I was explaining this to my daughter last night. She was so cute. We were sitting there on the couch. We were watching, I don't know, one of her shows that she likes to watch. Like, might have been Ninjago, or it might have been, which by the way is really well written. Like, make fun of me for talking about a Lego show being well written, but it is. I mean, if you're a writer out there that's not as good as Luke Richardson, and you want to know how to do like cliffhanger chapters, watch the Ninjago animated series. They do cliffhangers so well. And my daughter says to me, she's 5, but she picked up on this. She goes, I like how they end every show making me want to watch the next one.
Oh, she knows it.
Like they leave you there. Her vocabulary is better.
Is she writing the next 3 books at the moment for you? Is that what?
Hey, you're back to work in there.
Yeah. No bed until you finish book 4 or whatever.
She was so cute, and I said, yeah. I said that's a good thing to do when you're writing.
Oh, see, Martha loves Ninjago, as you just.
Martha loves it. Yes. It's Martha. You know, it's so well done, right? Like, I know there's little cheesy things or whatever because you know it's a kids show, but you got to admit when you watch it, you're like, man, this actually meets all the right parameters for. It's
got to be a real good training, that, hasn't it, for being a writer of novels, isn't it? To have written something like that, to express a story in the simplest terms in 25 minutes or however long one of those is. Oh, yeah. You know, using just dialogue, not any internal thoughts or anything like that, or description of anything. You know, just dialogue must be.
Yeah. So yeah, my daughter was really funny though. She said that she recognizes what a cliffhanger is. She didn't call it that, but she recognizes it. And it was really funny though. She said, we got to talking about what I do in stories, because we were watching, I think, it was Masha and the Bear, which is this Russian production that this little blonde girl, Masha, hangs out with this bear in Siberia all the time and all these other animals. And the bear was sitting down to write his life story. It was called My Life. And he's got his inkwell and his feather, you know, and he's like his quill, and he's trying to like write it. And he keeps getting frustrated and crumbling up the paper and throwing it away. And she said, why does he keep throwing it away? And I said, because he's trying to write a story, and every time he reads it, he doesn't think it's good enough. And I said, that's why Daddy doesn't read his own work, is because I would never publish anything. If I ever read my own stories, I would never publish them because I would always think they weren't good enough. And I said, writing stories is really difficult because you're, you know, the bear was writing is memoirs, but like when I said, when you're writing stories about stuff that hasn't happened and people that aren't real, it's very difficult. And that's what I do. And she goes, why didn't you choose an easier job?
She's got a really good point,
I said, well, I said I had an easier job that I didn't like nearly as much.
Yeah,
And,
that's it.
I mean, it
is that revision thing that I find the most difficult as well. That would it be better if it were like this, and would it be better have you always done that, or for the first few books were you more sort of looking back and questioning, or have you always been write and publish and
So that's a good question. So I don't know. I'm so insecure that I think the thing that held me back for so long with publishing was the ability to finish a task. Like I would start something and finish, right? So that perseverance was lacking until I wrote Secret of the Stones, and I was like, no, I am going to finish this because I found too many dots that connect that are so like no one's going to believe these dots connect for this story, but they do connect. I need to tell this story and I need to create these characters. And so I did it, and I never read Secret of the Stones, and I have never, the only book that I've written that I actually went through and kind of revised some was the second book, was Cleric's Vault. And it is by far the one that I have received the most bad reviews for. I tested out some different writing style stuff in it. I revised some stuff in it. And even friends that read it and have read my other stuff said, it feels like it wasn't as raw and honest, and it wasn't really you. And I was like, well, I'm never doing that again. And so,
that's great, isn't it?
and I do see some drop off, right, from book 1 to book 3. Like there's a lot of people that stop in book 2 because they didn't like the style of book 2. So I am going to have that looked at again by a third editor this time, and see what we can do to sort of patch it up a little bit. But yeah, no, I've just there's an author, I think, was it Dean Wesley Smith, I believe, that teaches a course about that, about just writing and publishing. Like send it to your editor, and then you fix what they tell you to fix, but don't like reread it. Him and his wife, I believe, teach that course, and I never took the course, but I've talked to other writers that do that. There's another one I met at Thriller Fest in 2019 that does things that way. He's an old military guy, and I was listening to him talk, and I went up to him afterwards and I said, I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone in like this whole. He's like, man, I don't have time to do that. He said
that's the way you need to be, I think, and that's what I need to do more of, is just right, because these stories, I really I like the stories that I have, but you get too much into the weeds, don't you? Would it be better like this? Would it be better twisted around this way? Or should I reveal that at this point? Or should I hold on to that bit of whatever till the end, And yeah, I think I need to just sort of grow into that, I think, over the next couple of books.
Well, so, and I'm not telling you, like I'm not going to tell you how to dust your shelves, but it's day of the trip. I'm looking through the comments, but it has been a good. Oh, thank you, Heather. That's very sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
That's a lovely comment.
Yeah, there's it seems like, look at the comments. Like everybody seems to be enjoying the chapters. And by the way, hey, there's William. Cheers, William. I know what he's got in his hand. But yeah, it is good practice doing these daily chapters, not only to sort of keep your honest voice going, like making sure that you don't overthink stuff and just tell the story, right? And yes, Steve Moore, exactly. That's what editors are for. But like it also allows readers to see your flaws, right? Like all these people over here in the comments that are talking about these chapters, like they see all the really weird typos. Like I know one of you over here emailed me this one, and James Slater is not here right now, I don't think, but he sent it to me as well, where I typed half of the forces were gone, but I typed HAVE. Like I meant to say half, and I said have. And it's funny because sometimes when somebody sends me one of those, I'm like, they must think I am half brain dead sometimes. Like with these little like really weird word mistakes or like double word mistakes. Like, what was he doing? Like, why did
When
he?
your brain's running like that, you don't notice, do you, so much?
Oh
Those
no! And one of them
those little
was
things.
yeah, and one of them was oh gosh, who was it that sent me this? I can't remember who sent me this, but it was a sentence that just stopped, and I went on to the next sentence, and I had posted this live on Monday, and she messaged me about it. I'm like, she's like, I don't know where you were going with this. I'm like, oh, I don't either. I must have got up to like go get some water or something, or my daughter must have come in and asked me to
Yeah,
come look at
yeah.
something, and I
But I
came
think
back
you're
and
right.
just
That's it about it. It's showing, the stories are they're a real thing, aren't they? They're not perfect. They're organic, and they're from your own mind and the things that you've experienced and the things that you've thought.
yeah,
Um, and actually, you could tweak something forever, couldn't you? And it would make it no better, and you'd probably end up making it worse by continually doing that.
yeah. You're looking at the comments, aren't you? Like
Yes, I am. Yeah, yeah,
they're all good. Oh, thank
yeah.
you, Jan. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the ones I'm doing right now are it is the pre-story to Sean Wyatt. So it's back when he worked with the Access Agency, when he was an operator with them, and I've actually finished this short story's done. These short stories are going to be like 10,000 words, at maybe 12. They're all just short stories that I wanted to give everybody, and I'll package them up and give them away for signing up on the email list, like the newsletter and stuff like that. I don't really have any plans to sell them. And I did do that with the Dak Harper stuff. I packaged it up and sell them for like 99 cents or the box set or whatever. But yeah, it was all free, and it's good for me to keep that practice going, to keep the knife sharp. And it's also, I think, right, especially right now, it's still important to like help people keep their minds off of things, and
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
in a fictional escape like that, it's just it's
Mm.
5-10 minutes of just like, okay, that was cool, like I like just
Well, that's why our stories, like the good person always wins, doesn't it? If they keeled over in the final act, that'd be really shit, wouldn't it? That really wouldn't be a nice end to that story, you know.
by the way, guys.
I've been expecting you, Mr. Bond, which is why I'm actually going to kill you now, rather than explain my plan to you and then let you go.
Like the Incredibles.
Franchise, like.
Yeah, like in the Incredibles, where they're like, and what did he do? He started monologuing, right? He
Yeah.
started going on and on. And like that main character, the main villain in the beginning, he started monologuing. He's like, you got me monologuing. You almost tricked me. Right.
That's it. I mean, I grew up watching like Bond films, as I've just
Oh
mentioned.
yeah.
I know you've mentioned Star Wars as well, and
Come
those sorts of
on.
ideas of sort of who the good character is and who the bad character is. And I think actually in stories like ours, that's such an important thing, isn't it? And I know in more a lot of recent films, they've tried to sort of humanize the bad guy in a lot of ways, haven't they? They've tried to make this bad guy a bit more understandable, but actually I think there's a place for just a real horrible villain in a story, isn't there?
Yes. Oh yeah. Definitely. Have you put those real horrible villains in your stories? Let's
Yeah,
talk about your
there's a
stories.
few horrible villains. So the first one, Kathmandu, is actually Alyssa, who is one of the main characters. Her father is the horrible story. You know, the horrible story, the horrible villain.
No, I
And
knew. Yeah.
yeah, and he sends Leo to find Alyssa because she's gone missing. She's run away because of their family's dysfunctional. So they're sort of like a posh, rich family, and they're massively dysfunctional. And she ran away because she didn't want anything to do with it. And so he sends Leo to find her. But he chooses Leo because he's a little bit of a down and out. So it's completely deniable if anything bad should happen to him, which the bad guy thinks probably will happen because he's arranged it in advance, perhaps, which he thinks probably will happen when they catch up with each other. And then obviously they sort of meet and go into this sort of crime fighting, you know, finding missing people around the world. The spanner in the works is that Leo suffers quite badly with anxiety throughout all of the books. So
yes, I can relate to that.
He's quite a difficult man to write because, you know, in a lot of stories, you want your hero to just go in and kick the ass of all the villains, but in Leo doesn't do that because he's quite reserved. And in these later books now, I'm 4 or 5 books in, and he's starting to be a bit more, you know, screwing his sort of, getting a bit more aggressive. But in those early books, he isn't at all, and that's a challenge to write. But yeah. I think that's important for him to be, you know, a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more anxious.
Now, can I ask you a personal question? Do you struggle with that kind of anxiety?
Not, I have been anxious about things, but I wouldn't say I have anxiety about things in like the clinical sense. I read about it and have had some friends that have suffered with that, and just thought, from all the thrillers that I've read, you so often get this sort of strapping macho guy. In fact, it probably goes down to like this whole idea of masculinity being this strapping macho guy that can kick anyone and beat anyone. And actually, most blokes aren't like that, you know. And I put myself up and say I'm not like that, you know. Yeah. And Leo is a step further backwards. He isn't this strapping macho guy, and actually he finds it difficult to talk to people he doesn't know, or pick up the phone to someone he doesn't know, or question someone about something. But yet he has this situation where he has to go and find someone on the opposite side of the world. Yeah. And I thought, what a brilliant conceit for a novel. This guy who struggles to open his door when the bell goes, but yet he hasn't got a job, and in order to earn money, someone's given him this opportunity to go and find someone. Yeah. And that becomes the first novel. But then fitting that into a thriller, because I was adamant I wanted to write thrillers because they're the books I love.
Yeah.
Is challenging, but you know, we'll you be the judge of it. Enjoy it.
Well, if you ever need any, like, you know, firsthand expertise on anxiety, I'll be happy to tell you what it feels like all the time. So like, no, I'm making a joke, but I'm also not kidding. It's like it's always there, and it's I mean, you just learn to live with it, I guess. But it's an interesting thing. I love characters who have, I mean, it's cliche to say I love characters that have flaws, but like, because everybody likes characters with flaw, you have to have a character with a flaw. But I love the angle that you're taking with Leo, and even Martha says here that it's been nice seeing him develop, even though she's still giving me that weird look, like I know what you're up to. But yeah, no, I love that. I really love the way that you describe that, and I'm definitely gonna. Steve said I taught Luke and Leo everything I know about anxiety. So, well, with friends like me and Steve, you should be fine. Yeah, you should be able to write it like you have a PhD in psychiatry. I do have a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Wow, yeah, that's it. But I mean, it's the way it can creep up, and it does on Leo in some quite. There's not always rhyme and reason, and friends of mine who suffer with it have said that there's not always rhyme and reason for it, and all of a sudden he will just feel this, and it'll be like the walls have closed in, and he won't be able to do anything. And over the course of the books, he's learned coping strategies and ways that he can sort of work through that. Yeah. And in many ways, actually, and whether this is true to fact or not, at the times when he really needs to do something, if his life is on the line, he's able to do it most of the time. But quite often it's when he's on his own in a difficult situation, when something's a little bit oppressive, that perhaps he struggles with that. But as a writer, he's a fantastic character to work with, and I've really enjoyed with that.
Now,
and I really like that I've had people email me from reading the books who've said, actually, and this is, I've done this through research and knowing people, and I have felt anxious about things, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to say that that's the same as having anxiety. I've had people message me and say, this has helped me understand a family member who suffers with this. And I just thought, what an amazing thing to to have as an author, to be told as an author. So
yeah. Well, so we've been here for an hour. I can't believe how fast it always goes fast.
Oh, we haven't even done the accents yet. What did we
do? We'll talk about that in a minute. we'll go a few minutes over, but I would feel horrible if I skipped this. What is your website? I'm going to type it in here in the comments.
It's LukeRichardsonAuthor.com. And if you go to LukeRichardsonAuthor.com/Kotao, which is KOHTAO, you get the novella for free, which is the novella to the series.
.com/
KOHTAO.
KOH?
Yeah.
You guys, you said H. You said H. Like H. That's how you guys say it.
H.
It's so interesting. We just say H. Isn't that interesting? But of course, Americans invented English, right? So that's not correct. So KOH, what else?
TAO.
Did I spell this right? Please tell me I spelled it right.
Present, obviously. That's perfect, yeah. So if you go there, you get the novella to the series, in which Leo's previous girlfriend, Maya, goes missing on the island of Kotao, and that's how he gets thrown into sort of the world of missing people. He doesn't want to. He just wants to propose to his girlfriend on the beautiful island and have a nice time with the rest of his life. But she disappears, and his anxiety comes back because she's gone, and he has to deal with the Thai police and all these sorts of things. And then there we go.
Look, this is okay. Look, here's your blurb right there.
Steve, thank you, Steve.
Blurb, free blurb.
Yeah, it's I'm pleased with Kotao, actually. I think it's a bit shorter as well. It's 30,000 words, so about 150 pages, real quick read. It just cuts straight to the chase.
Yeah, but you know what? That is a spectacular giveaway and makes me feel a little like I'm almost underserving. That's really good. 150-page story is a great giveaway. Good. I love it. Look, Michelle even put it up there.
Thank you, Michelle.
Probably because I misspelled it. Oh yeah, because I forgot the author. Thank you. Yeah. Ignore me, everybody else. You see, it was another typo. Michelle got it.
Luke Richardson.
She and Tom. Tell Tom I said hi. By the way, they were here at my house and we went out to dinner last month. It was a good time. But yeah, look, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just checking out. Glad you have new and different authors. Love finding new books. Yes.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That's fantastic.
And I'll definitely have Luke back on again if he'll do it, because I enjoy having people on again, and I still need to get like Urcelia and a few others back on. But I talked to Urcelia and she has changed genres, which is fine. I'll still have her on, but she's getting into a new groove. But we were talking really quick. We forgot about the accents because we've just been talking so much. But what were we talking about? Oh, you came on. So this is how it went before the show ever starts, guys. I always try to get on here about 10 or 15 minutes before it starts to do a little sound check and, just chat for a minute, because I'm meeting these nice people for the first time, usually, including my narrator, John. Like, I had chatted with John via text and email, but when I had John Perhala on here, that's the first time I've ever looked at him and heard him talking. So Luke popped on and he started talking, and I said I didn't know what I was going to get, if I was going to get like an English accent or like where, if it was going to be like, you know, like Midwestern Nebraska. I had no idea. And so we started talking about Latvian. Yeah. And so I didn't know what we were going to get. And I thought probably English, because Allison was kind enough to connect us.
Alison and I, actually, my house is probably about 30 miles from Alison. I think we live in adjacent counties, although we've never met in person, but we do live very close to each other.
So you're close to Sam Nosh as well.
I don't know where Sam. Oh, yeah. Sam, where are you from, Sam? I've never met Sam either, I don't think. Close-ish. Specific enough to say, I don't want you to know, mate.
He's from, it's not Northampton.
Northampton is a
No,
place. Yeah.
no, it's not that. It's not. I always mess up where Sam's from. I always mess it up and forget. She'll answer in a second. I can never. She said it like 6 times to me.
Market Harborough.
Yeah, see, I was close. I was so close. Not at all. Not even remotely close. So
close. Physically close. Northampton and Market Harborough are about 10 miles from each other, aren't they, Sam?
Oh, you're moving to Northamptonshire. That's what it was. You said you were moving. See, I focused on where you were moving, so I wasn't too far off. Okay. Thank you. Still not good with geography over there, though. I got to work on that. So we were
only a few hundred miles long, to be fair. Like it's about the same.
It should be easy geography.
Yeah.
It's not a huge island, and yet you had the largest empire of all time.
I know. Can you imagine?
Oh, I mean, I still wish we had your accents over here. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the Southern accent and James.
Do you know what? There's evidence I read in an article a couple of years ago. There's evidence to suggest that the English accent, as in what I speak, is the one that's changed, and the American accent is the one that is what it was like in the 1700s.
That can't be real. Really?
I read that, and I wasn't sure why, but they said that because accents move so often and so much, they're changing all of the time anyway. That perhaps because when people moved to America to start with, there were less of them. Yeah. So in England there'll be more change and more flexibility.
Fascinating stuff.
They wouldn't have met anyone else, whereas in England we're all meeting each other all the time throughout the last 300 years or whatever.
And your empire, the sun never set on it. So you had people all over the world absorbing other accents and language.
And then coming back to England, whereas you guys over there were just heading out into this land on your own, doing your thing.
We're more British than you guys.
Maybe. I read that. It might not be true, but I read it somewhere a little while ago.
It's still a cool read, though. That's an interesting study.
I thought it was a good twist, because you think about it, don't you, as true English being like what the Queen speaks, and you listen to her, and then you think, well, actually, maybe Ernest Dempsey speaks more truer English than the Queen of England. And the mind is blown.
Well, I do dabble with all the accents, but my favorite one is still my native one, which is Southern. But I don't really have much of a Southern accent. It's funny. I was talking to James Blatch the other night, him and John Dyer, and they said James is such a lovely fellow. He said, I love your accent with that Southern drawl. And I said, I don't really kick into that very often, but oh, look, Callum's here. I am part Irish. That's true. That is very true. I come from Dempsey and then Fitzstevens. I think we were talking about that the other night. But yeah, it's the accent thing is so interesting. And we were talking about, this is where we were going with it, was we were talking about actors, particularly British actors who can switch it off and sound so American. Which is
fascinating, isn't it? And it completely blows your mind. People in the comments, can you name any great British actors that do convincing American accents or the other way around? Hi, Callum. Thank you. Good to see you.
Callum's awesome. That's a great question for the comments, by the way, Luke.
Yeah, or the other way around. I think it's easier actually to tell. It's easier for me to tell British actors that do American accents than American actors that do British accents. Maybe. I don't know though.
Yeah, I don't know. Who we were talking about? One of my favorites, Benedict Cumberbatch,
Yeah.
which I love him as Sherlock. Oh, the Sherlock show is amazing with Martin Freeman, and I think it's just so well done. And but when
Moriarty in those, he's fantastic.
Oh yeah, that guy's great too.
Like cringe-worthingly evil,
Oh yeah, I mean it's spectacular. But it's really interesting to see him go from that to Dr. Stephen Strange. You can't tell at all that he has a native accent when he's talking like Dr. Strange.
Yeah.
It's really hard. In fact, there was I don't know if you've seen Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis, but go on YouTube and look up the one with Benedict Cumberbatch. It's hilarious. And he starts mocking him in his accent. And that's a fantastic little spoof show that they just released the movie on Netflix for it. So it's even funnier, but yeah, Cumberbatch is great. Who was the one you mentioned?
Hugh Laurie.
Yeah, from House.
Hugh Laurie. And anyone in the comments remember Blackadder? It was a British comedy TV series in the 90s. Quite a sort of low budget, funny historical series, which they set it in different historical periods. There was one in like the Elizabethan times, and Hugh Laurie and Rowan Atkinson, who plays Mr. Bean. I think there's been international movies about Mr. Bean.
Rowan Atkinson.
And yeah, Sam loved Blackadder. So he did all that, and then he moved to America and did House, the medical TV series, and he did an American accent for it. And for me, it was just like the world has changed when Hugh Laurie does an American accent. There we go. Blackadder is hilarious.
What's funny is you were talking about Blackadder, and I was like, I've heard of this, but I don't remember seeing it. But I do know, of course, like, Mr. Bean. Of course.
Oh, Sean Connery, yes.
Oh my goodness, Sean Connery, God, so good. I mean, that was just the cherry on top for this year. By the way, like him going out, I'm like, of course he did. Like the guy that, like, I mean, the original Bond, spectacular in almost every role he ever did. At least every role I ever saw him in. I don't know much about his personal life. I don't know like what he was like as a person, but all I know is his work, and his work was spectacular. And
those Bond films are brilliant. So good. I'm actually reading at the moment Live and Let Die. Have you read any of the Bond books?
Ian Fleming, I've only read pieces of those books. I have not sat down and read one through yet, but I really like what I've read.
And they're brilliant because they don't get it across in the films, but Bond in the books is a much more of a fragile character. And he really is sort of, in the films, he's a bit of a womanizer, and he's after the women because of some kind of macho, egotistical reason. In the books, he's genuinely wanting that connection, and you see it comes through more, and I think they've obviously, because they were made into films 10, 20 years after, it's all been glamorized and whatever, and actually you see him in a bit like, my character and whatever, talking about sort of Leo and stuff, he is a bit wounded. He is a bit dark. He's got that sort of dark side as well, that sort of anxious, unsettled side, which I love.
I'm listening to you.
No, sorry, I'm reading the comments as well. But anyway, they're fantastic books to read.
I know the comments, I get distracted too. I'm like ADHD and like, and
it's a nice distraction to have, isn't it? To have so many people talking about great things.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I love about doing this show is you get to chat with everybody, and I don't want to ignore anyone either. That's what the other thing is. Like I'm like listening, but I'm like, I want to make sure I don't ignore anyone. So look at this. He had a friend that lived next door to Connery in Spain. Apparently a lovely guy. I want to believe that's the case. whether it's fiction from Steve Moore or not, I want to believe he was a lovely guy, and I'm going to keep believing it. It seemed awesome. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, well, gosh, there was one other thing I was going to ask you, and now I can't remember what it is, so I'm going to have to save it for the next time you're on the show.
All right. That sounds good to me.
It's been a little over an hour, and I need to let you get back to Riga, and
I'll tell you the time here now. It's 1:45. So we're 7 hours ahead of you. Yeah.
Good grief! I'm so sorry.
No. It's fine. I've had a really nice time. I feel like because I'm here to write. I've been working on British time mostly, so I've been staying up quite late anyway.
It's 2 a.m. and you're just as chipper as can be.
That's the Bockmanis, which is just great.
Nice.
Beer that I'm almost finished.
So I had an interesting question over here, and they're both right. Allison asked what my favorite meat is, and Steven said I don't eat meat. I was raised a vegetarian. That's true. And I didn't try meat until I was 21. But I eat it every now and then, but I try to do as much vegan and vegetarian as I can. But if I have a favorite, it's a steak, it's a fillet. I mean, it's like that's the one thing that the veggie substitute meats have not been able to really replicate very well yet. And I actually nailed it with I took some Impossible burger yesterday and today, put it on my Big Green Egg, and I treated it the same way I would have treated a brisket. And I smoked it for less time than I would have a brisket, and it came out tasting a little bit like a brisket. It was pretty dadgum good. So, but no, I don't want to eat at the restaurant in Kathmandu.
You're absolutely right, Alison. You're absolutely right. But that was my debut novel, Kathmandu, and there's something mysterious about the restaurant there.
I will have to check it out.
You will have to check it out.
And everybody else needs to check it out. So you can check out LukeRichardsonAuthor.com, and you've got we posted all the different stuff. How do you say it again?
Kohtao.
Yes.
Kohtao.
You'll get a free novella that's like, and some people say, I don't know what a novella is. Listen, it's like a small book, and
it's about half a novel in my sense. It's about half the length of one of the novels.
But it's the whole story, and I'm going to check it out, and it's got Steve Moore's endorsement. So
and Alison as well. She's yeah.
Don't want to.
I mean, that's not the endorsement for Kohtao, but she has endorsed it in the past. So.
Yes. So yeah, definitely check it out, and all your stuff's on Amazon as well. Yeah,
it is on Amazon. Yeah.
Great. And I've seen the covers. The covers are really good. And if you can read a book by its cover, then these are going to be a treat. And so I'm looking forward to trying them for the first time as well. So everybody, thank you. No, you do not. So everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. Going forward, I'm actually going to do this show about 30 minutes earlier because I'm going to start doing this at 5 o'clock Eastern until we get to our next time change. Because this is, some of you know, like, well, because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and so I try not to work on Friday nights and Saturdays, and so I don't want to infringe too much on like my wacky religious beliefs. So but I also don't look at this as work. This is like hanging out with friends. So I'm like, it's not really that. I'm not working. I'm just hanging out. So I'm only going to move it up by 30 minutes. Because I don't think it's, I'm not sitting here like, got to figure out this next scene and, I've got to do this. And then I'm just hanging out with friends. So, but I am going to move it up 30 minutes, partly because of that, and partly because, it gets dark early here. And so I want to spend as much time with my family as possible before we put the kid to bed at night. So, anyway, so going forward, Drinks with Dempsey, 5 o'clock Eastern time on Fridays, which will be 1:30 a.m. in Latvia, and or 2, whatever it is.
We're 7 hours ahead, so that'll be
I,
midnight.
I cannot believe how chipper you are at 2 in the morning. Like I'd be like, what did you say? Are we still on? Like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, you are spectacular, man. It's been great meeting you. Stay on the call for a second. I'll see you backstage. Everybody, we'll see you next week. I believe Matt James is going to be on the show. I've got to double check on that, and I'm also working on getting a good friend of mine, Matt Buckman, on the show as well. So stick around, Luke, and for the rest of you, I will see you Sunday morning for coffee around 8 o'clock, and that's it. Y'all have a good weekend.